Yeah, I don't think there's penises in these first couple, but in the first season there are.
There's lots of boobs in the first season.
There's a lot of boob.
It's glorious.
It's
glorious.
It's fine. It is a bit icky.
No.
In a couple spots.
I'm sorry. I can't wait until we get to literally hear this noise.
I know. I know.
Like 30
I'm sorry.
seconds.
That's not as bad as when you get to the parts where that's disgusting.
Which in these episodes?
I don't remember now. I think there's
one.
What
are you thinking of?
There with Tyrion, and you hear her.
Oh yeah,
you do.
You hear sloppy. Yeah,
you do. I don't like the slurpy. I don't want to hear your slurpy sounds.
All right, to hell with it all. This is how we're starting. I don't like your slurping. I don't like your soft wieners. I don't like your clapping cheeks. That's what makes it the greatest show of all time, Rachel. If you don't have clapping cheeks and soft wieners, you don't have the greatest show of all time. That's just a fact.
Take out all of those. If you take out every scene with a flopping wiener, boobs, and slurp sounds, you
might be right about the slurp sounds, though. I watched it on my 4K, and I vaguely thought I heard slurping.
It happens twice in the season.
I need to go back and see.
Because it happens twice in the season.
Now I gotta watch it again.
Tyrion and with, what is the king's brother's name?
Oh, Renly?
With Renly.
Yeah.
With the scene with Renly and his
where
lover.
They're shaving each other.
And
you hear,
and then all of a sudden you hear it again, and you're just like, what did they give him? Did they give him a hot dog? Because I don't want to hear it.
They want to make sure that you know what they're up to.
Who made that noise? Because somebody had to make that noise for the show.
Well, they brought real porn stars in for some of these parts, so
I don't think that
they could have been a sound from a professional.
No, well, okay, fine.
I don't know. Look, if there's Foley artists out there that can tell us how they made that noise, like I would love to know.
Probably a member of some sort that is not real.
Phrasing. Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
You think somebody really went down to town
on a fake thing? Potentially to make that noise, or a hot dog, something. What is happening? We haven't even started.
I am Kevin, Lord of the Shelf Realm.
And I am Rachel, the Lady of Shelf Life.
Yes. This is my sister, Rachel.
Hello. Starting off strong. We're starting off strong today. Let's go.
And this is Shelf Life, a podcast.
Give yourself
We're doing Game of Thrones, so naturally, you need a brother and sister team that do nothing that the brother and sister teams in this fucking show do. That's for goddamn sure.
Fuck that.
Not a single one of them.
Ew.
There is not a good brother and sister duo in this show.
Well, there is.
From top to fucking
dead,
bottom.
So.
Which one?
She's dead, so that's the only one that I can think of.
I'll give you Ned and Lyanna.
That's
fine.
Thank you. I'm glad you knew exactly who I was talking about.
I could maybe even give us Jon and Arya.
Yes.
But Georgie had some weird plans for those two that he abandoned.
Thank God.
Mm-hmm.
God, can you?
He abandoned it.
You're showing us too many kinks and weird things that you like, sir. Keep it inside voices. All right, not books, not written word.
This is a podcast where a brother and sister team go through all things in the pop culture realms to determine whether or not the subject at hand belongs on your shelf, be they digital or physical. And if we deem them not worthy of the shelf, they are exiled above the wall into the bin of nothingness, like that piece of shit Master of Disguise or anything else that we've said doesn't belong on the shelf.
Don't even. Why are you even mentioning it? It gets mentioned more often now that we've done it.
We give it strength. The more you mention it, the more strength it gets.
We have to stop talking about it. Bleep it. Bleep it now.
Rachel, We've come a long way here in the 7 volumes. It's time to go into the 7 kingdoms, because what will we begin the discussion of today?
We will be talking about 2011's Game of Thrones TV show, Season 1.
Season 1 of Game of Thrones. We're going to do episodes 1 and 2 today in our discussion. Is it Winter is Coming and
Yes, Winter is Coming.
King's Road are the 2 episodes that we're going to cover. Potentially, the greatest achievement of television of all time, some might say. One of the great television stories of all time. Mm-hmm. Or is it a television show that falls flat on its face, trying to deliver the promises in its payoff in the final season? Or is this a journey made by a gardener, and you don't know where it's going, and neither does he? It is Game of Thrones. It's a fantasy epic, one of the largest television shows of all time, that's for sure, and one of the most complex. I think enough time has passed, Rachel, for us to be able to go start the journey through Game of Thrones. In particular, now we're doing Season 1, which I don't think anybody really knew what the hell was going to happen here with this. But Rachel, what is your history with the show or books of Game of Thrones, and do you have a little synopsis of what Game of Thrones is about?
Sure.
Because this is different. I mean, well, before you start,
go ahead.
I cut you off because outside of Doctor Who, which is a sci-fi show with some different quirks, all of the shows that we've done, and Twilight Zone, we've mostly been doing comedy, sitcom shows, or Saturday morning stuff. Now, this is like the first drama. It's a fantasy. Mm-hmm. So it's a little different than what we've done in the past. Now you may begin.
I'll start with my history on it, I guess. So I do remember when it first came out, people were like watching it, and then I knew of it. But everybody just kept calling it, oh, there's so much nudity and this and that. It's not that great, is what I was hearing. But I also knew it's fantasy. So I was just like, well, what is it about? Nobody's been saying, what is it about? I didn't watch it until I was in college. And my little anecdote is I watched it when I first played Dungeons and Dragons for the very first time. That same day, my friend turned it on while we were there. And I watched the first couple of episodes of Game of Thrones while we were getting everything set up. And I was just like, oh, this is not what I was expecting from what I heard people talking about it. And then that's when it started that we started actually watching it when it would come out. Like, each episode would come out and we would actually all watch it together. So that was kind of fun. It kind of made it an event for us to do. Do you want me to tell what it's about, or do you want to tell us your history first?
I can tell mine first. That's fine. So, like most things fantasy or sci-fi, I dismiss it thinking it's going to be too dry and I'm not going to like it.
That's fair. He does this. He does this.
He even did. You want to know everything?
With literally everything, even epics. Yes.
I mean, there's a reason for that. I'm cautious about getting into or trying any of this stuff. One, because I'm afraid of change and everything. As one needs to be, one needs to learn to adapt to change.
You also thought it was too nerdy for you. Most of this stuff, you always think fantasy and sci-fi goes too far nerdy for you.
Well, because in a lot of these stories, it can get so in the weeds of the lore and the names and shit that it can become so dry to me that it loses its sense of purpose.
Whimsy.
Like world building is great, but the world building all needs to have a purpose to it. And if you do something that's just like, okay, now here's another 20 fucking names of like garbage shit that you probably don't need to remember, but it's just fun for the world building. And it's like, okay, now you're forgetting your purpose here. You're forgetting your themes and characters and stuff. There are certain authors that do that. I'm not saying Georgie doesn't, but
I would assume he also kind of does.
He's a discovery writer. I've read the books now. He's a discovery writer. No, I totally get your point, because I do that all the time. I did it with Harry Potter. I did it with
Lord of the
Rings. For sure happens all the time. I think of it more as just, though, I don't want to like put a lot of effort into it if it's going to get to that point where I just abandon it.
Sure.
But one should always be open to the idea of going into something with an open mind and seeing
Absolutely.
if they have the themes and the characters and everything that can keep you up. I was the same way with Game of Thrones. I don't remember if my friends watched it or not. I can't recall them recommending it. I think maybe one of my friends watched or read the first book maybe, because I recall him saying something about the seasons don't, he kind of like phrased it as the seasons don't function like the real world, but everything else is fairly just standard medieval fare. Was how he kind of like tried to pitch it to me.
That's true. That is true. You kind of have to wrap your head around that a little bit.
I first watched it when I was on fun employment. I had left a job, quit a job, and I had time before the next job started because of when I like negotiated my start date. So I had like a week in between. And so I was like, well, what am I going to do? Oh, so actually this is the first episode I ever saw was called The Lion and the Rose. It's the season 4 episode at Joffrey's wedding. That was the first episode I watched. I was on the road for work. I was in a hotel and I was like, I don't know what, flipping through and like Game of Thrones was on. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll just watch this. It's a spoilerific episode for someone that has never seen a Game of Thrones thing before. And I don't think maybe I watched the rest of season 4 or like a couple of the episodes in season 4 after that.
Right.
And then I went back when I was on fun employment and watched the first 3 seasons. So it hooked me in. It was a bingeable enough show, or enough show that like somebody that like me that does not like to binge watch could watch a couple of episodes at a time and be like, yeah, this is engaging. This has a lot of good characters. There's a lot of depth to them.
Right.
There's intrigue and there's some magic and there's some elements and the world building is good and the sets are great and the costumes are great and everything fits together very nicely. So that was my introduction to it. And we got to the point, Rachel, where eventually we told Mom and Dad to watch the show.
Yes.
Mom hates sci-fi and fantasy.
And magic.
Hates it. Hates magic. She lives in a world she hates magic. But we kind of we sold
sad her, actually when you say it like that.
We sold her on the idea though of the politics.
Yes.
And Dad would like the action and
sword fighting.
he likes the magic and
yeah,
shit.
the medieval stuff.
And they liked it.
Dan and I are the ones who always watched all that stuff before you. That was always a me and Dad thing, and that's why I'm so into all of it.
We have aunts and cousins that watch it. That are completely different from our taste, culturally, politically, and anything else.
Anything else in
and
between.
They liked it, yeah. And we got to the point where, like, Rachel and I have gone to the Game of Thrones concerts that they've put on, which are great.
Oh, those were fantastic.
I've got Game of Thrones stuff up in the Shelf Life Studios. I have always considered buying Longclaw Game of Thrones banners in the house, all that sort of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So we've become fans of the show, right? Like that's for sure. So what's Game of Thrones about, though, Rachel?
So Game of Thrones is about this land called Westeros. Westeros. Yeah. All the kingdoms and kind of, like we were saying, the politics and the dynamics of all of them together and what's happening of the time. One of the overarching pieces is that there's also this kind of like hidden bad guy that none of them think is real.
There's a phantom menace.
There's a phantom.
But you're talking about the White Walkers, though.
Yeah, but they think it's a myth. Okay. There's like a mythical creature that's a bad guy that's also kind of like always looming over their heads.
Yeah, there's like 2 main threads that go throughout it. Like one is just the politics of all of these.
There's 3. Right?
Oh, because Dany?
I would count Dany's as like a full separate because she's a part of it, but I feel like her story never is interconnected until like...
Yeah, not until the end. You've got the old family that used to have the throne trying to reclaim the throne from afar, from another continent, trying to build an army. The White Walkers, the mythical undead.
Yes.
Who... always are
we don't
threatened.
Really know a lot of them, like about them yet, but yes, always a threat.
And then you have the political intrigue of who is on the throne and all the family dynamics and fighting with each other to be the power structure of the continent.
Yes.
I know that for a lot of people out there, when you hear Game of Thrones, you think of what people say about the ending of the show.
Oh, yeah, that's what everybody only ever talks about anymore.
I think that that's really a shame.
It is.
Because there are 8 fucking seasons. There are 73 episodes of it.
Yes.
So much of this is way more than the ending.
I also
so
don't agree
of it.
with what people complain about with the ending.
We'll get to that one day.
Eventually.
We'll get to it one day. There are a lot of valid complaints about it.
But there's also a lot of stupid complaints about it.
People think that it ended very poorly.
Right.
The question is why, and the question will be like, does the rest of it make up for that? In a lot of ways, Rachel, especially when it comes to television, and maybe this is because The Simpsons is my favorite show of all time, it's never going to end. The actors will all die and they will replace them. Mm-hmm. That's just something you have to live with as a Simpsons fan. It will never have a satisfying ending. That's okay.
It did, and maybe for me. Because I kept those couple episodes that you were like, this feels like a good ending. And
there's a couple where you're like, yep, that can be the ending.
That's my ending now. Yeah. It doesn't exist.
Well, exactly.
The rest of it doesn't exist.
You headcanon The Simpsons, maybe you can headcanon Game of Thrones. To me, it's like the journey of The Simpsons is very much like the journey of Game of Thrones. The difference is, with Game of Thrones, this is a television show that is telling you a story in an epic way. It was almost like you were getting a movie every single week, especially with like the budget of some of these things.
Absolutely.
Of course, Game of Thrones is based on A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. Georgie. Hey, Georgie.
Oh, no.
When are you gonna finish your saga, Georgie?
Never.
Yeah, I truly don't think he's ever gonna finish. Folks at home,
if you're listening to this, but I don't know if that's just a red herring, so people stop bothering him, so he can finish it.
Well, I know people want to stop by, and I feel bad for him in a way because it's like people just complain to him about it all the time.
Well, considering they said we don't like your ending, and he knew how he wants it to end, he doesn't want to end it anymore.
I kind of guarantee that the ending that he had is the ending that you saw.
Absolutely, 100%.
However, if the writing to get you to that ending works, people might have been okay with the ending. I don't necessarily like a lot of the ending either. No, because I know what people are
complaining about. I know what they're complaining about. And it was less so how it got there. And it was more so what happened. And I went, you're dumb. What happened?
No, okay, but you're thinking of Danny, right?
I am.
I'm thinking of Bran.
I don't really care as much. That's kind of like I expected it, and so it didn't bug me.
The Danny part was going to happen no matter what.
But that's what I always hear people complain about, and it drives me up the wall.
Because, as you pointed out, Rachel, Paul Atreides is Daenerys Targaryen.
Yeah.
You watched Dune, and the first thing you told me was, well, Paul is just Daenerys.
Yes.
You were like, it's just Danny's fucking arc.
Oh, it's Danny. Yeah, I did. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, I guarantee you George stole the plot because everyone steals from Dune. I guarantee you that Paul Atreides' arc is just Danny Targaryen's, or vice versa. It's really Danny is stealing the plot arc of Paul.
Right.
And John is Zendaya.
I can't think of her name. I don't know any of their names.
If they could have done it in a way that
know. It's just, the last season probably should have been cut out to 2 seasons, but that's not what we're talking about. I understand.
No.
I'm sorry. I digress. So anyways.
He's the type of guy that goes in with a vague plan of where he wants everything to be. He starts going through it, has vague ideas of what he wants to do, but he doesn't outline anything, and then he gets lost in the massive writing that he does, and then he has to try to figure out how to tie it all back together to make a satisfying ending. Stephen King writes that way. Some other writers you might know write that way.
You can tell he writes that way. Stephen King. Sometimes you can really tell that he writes that way. You can tell.
Because a lot of time what happens is you'll have these really rich worlds with really rich prose and really rich characters, and the arcs feel really good, and then they'll have unsatisfying endings because then the writer goes, shit, and has to get everything to kind of fall into place.
Yeah.
As opposed to an outline writer who might have a very standard arc, but might not have as rich of the rest of the stuff. like J.K. Rowling.
Right.
Or, as an example, Brandon Sanderson. He's an outline writer. Georgie writes Game of Thrones, he writes A Song of Ice and Fire. He starts writing it in the 90s, and when you look at the fact that he started writing in the 90s, a lot of the character archetypes start to make sense when it comes to Game of Thrones. You have the dwarf, you have the knight in shining armor, the Prince Charming, the queen, the bastard, all of these different characters. What he does with the genre and what makes the genre different when it comes to A Song of Ice and Fire is he twists it on its head, where the characters that you would think are like the noble ones because of what you learn about fantasy and a lot of these other places are not noble at all. They're scum, and everyone's a villain, and everyone's shady, and it's really all of these downtrodden people that are the ones that have to live in this shitty world and can make something of themselves and whatnot. So you can see where that dynamic is different when it comes to when you start something in the 90s and write it right through 2011. And I think that's when A Feast for Crows came out, was 2011. He was a screenwriter, too.
Okay.
For television. Game of Thrones and The Song of Ice and Fire, basically just War of the Roses, or different English houses fighting for control of the crown.
Right.
I think they were even the Lancasters, so like Lannister.
Right. And I think it's the same sigil even.
He mixes things from Greek, and he mixes things from all of the... And you can tell even with like Essos and with the Dany stuff, like that's clearly like Egypt and the Mongols. Like the Dothraki are very clearly like Mongols.
Right.
Like Genghis Khan is Khal Drogo, right? Like
right.
That's a very clear parallel. So you have all of these things where he's just combining a lot of world history stuff into this narrative, and then making some of the characters more modern day and like stuck in this world, like a Ned Stark, an Arya, even Dany to a certain extent, Tyrion for sure. Like, how do they navigate through the Game of Thrones?
Right. Dany, you're saying from a perspective of she's a woman. Same with Arya, honestly, but she's also young.
But in two different ways, because one is a woman that just wants to be independent, like warrior, and one's a woman who wants to rule. So like, there's the two different like.
Mm-hmm. It was just the way you said it. I don't know if I had to explain like the reason.
No, I got you. Okay. I got you. Oh, A Feast for Crows came out in 2005. Oh, it's been a really long time.
Wow.
What's the last one? Oh, Dance of Dragons. Dance of Dragons came out in 2011. Okay, I had to look at my shelf. So.
One of the
novels were very
shelves
popular.
Of shelf life, Kevin's shelf.
I've gotten through 2 of them so far. The series has sold like 100 million copies or 90 million copies, something like that. So it was a very popular book. Georgie himself, like I said, was a screenwriter in the 80s. I'm going to look up and see what he actually worked on, because I know he was the editor for a bunch of science fiction stuff. He wrote some Twilight Zone. Outer Limits.
Interesting.
Things like that. I thought he did like Beauty and the Beast or something.
Well, that would be interesting.
In like the 80s, there was a TV show. But yeah, there's stuff all over the place. He's been very prolific, and he kind of hit it big with Game of Thrones. Not unlike Suzanne Collins, kind of, with Hunger Games.
Sure.
When you actually think about it, Rachel.
Yeah, that makes sense.
In 2006, Benioff and Weiss, these two guys, D.B. Weiss, David Benioff, they become the showrunners for Game of Thrones. They're hated now, and they've kind of lost all opportunities now because of that ending. But at the time, they were just kind of looking to make a show. And they got in contact with Georgie. They had a phone call with him. I think they had a lunch with him.
Okay.
And they were able to convince him that they could make the show. And they won him over because he asked them, who is Jon Snow's mother?
Ooh,
and they must have gotten the answer right. And they had the reasonings for it. Oh, here's what he said. I worked in Hollywood myself for about 10 years, from the late 80s to the 90s. I had been on the staff of The Twilight Zone and Beauty of the Beast. All my drafts tended to be too long or too expensive. I always hated the process of having to cut. I said, I'm sick of this. I'm going to write something that's as big as I want it to be, and it's going to have a cast of characters that go into the thousands. Yeah, and I was like, yeah, Georgie, you sound like us.
Damn it.
HBO acquired the rights of it. Benioff and Weiss came out, obviously, like, got it into HBO. Martin thought that it was good that it went to HBO because that meant that they could do exactly how it's written. They don't have to cut corners. They don't have to cut swearing, boobs, anything. They can write it as is or make it as is. There was a pilot shot, and I've heard, Rachel, that the pilot is awful.
Oh!
That it is, like, hilarious to see this pilot.
Oh, God. I don't think I've ever seen the pilot. I didn't even know that it existed.
I've seen screenshots from it. Like, if you Google it, there might be screenshots from it. Like, I can picture in my mind Danny, and it's like, yeah, I'm glad that they,
Oh. Huh. It's hard to say because of, like, I guess the pictures are more of, like, screenshots and stuff. The thing that I'm seeing, besides the fact that completely different person, is the lighting and the dressing and everything. They elevated it in the real one. The other one looks like cosplay. Cheap cosplay. We're making our fan fiction movie. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, but again, like, it's hard to say. Weird. Like, why is she dressed like she's an English woman? Like, from a very different time in this picture. Unless maybe that's just showing the actress, but,
The idea was that they were trying to show that it would work.
Sure.
But they had cast, like, the kids were all cast. Obviously, Danny quit. Like, they had to get a different Danny.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of did not go well. But then they decided to, like, try it all again, and they went with it again, and it feels like you're right. They needed to get the sets right. They needed to get the lighting right. They needed to get the costumes right so that it all fit together.
It didn't
That's
feel...
the unsung hero of this show.
Because it has to feel like high fantasy. It can't feel like it's just this little throwaway fantasy novel. This is high fantasy, is what I would call it, because of how in-depth and detailed it is.
The pilot cost between $5 to $10 million, but the first season was between $50 and $60 million. So, like, you're talking about, like, a little movie, like a movie budget. Although when you have to do, like, 10 hours worth, it's not a movie budget because you're really talking, like, $5 million an episode or whatever. Nina Gold was the casting director.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Dinklage and Sean Bean brought in specifically for these roles.
Sure.
The rest of the cast did readings, but those two were brought in specifically for the roles.
Love that.
Of course, as you would have to assume.
Poor
and then they get going. So yeah, they film in Northern Ireland, Malta, mostly the first season, and you get Game of Thrones, Rachel. It is the start of the epic fantasy. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. The show starts off with a moderate audience, and every single season it gained in ratings, which is rare, I feel like, especially nowadays. You talk about like something like Seinfeld, but yeah, till the end, it just kept getting bigger and bigger. It's one of those things, in my opinion, that shows that if you just make something and try to make it as good as you can, it will find its way. But you have to keep doing it in that particular way. Mm-hmm. After all this time, after all the accolades it's been given, after all of the discussion that's been had about it, after the cultural phenomenon that it was in the teens of this century, now the question is, what has become of Game of Thrones? Is it something that will be forgotten by George to finish? Or will it just be an unfinished script that some guy will finish long into the future because George is like, you figure it out, I'm not going to fucking deal with it. That's probably what's going to happen. Is the TV show really and truly the best television show? Well, none of these questions really matter, Rachel, because the only question that matters is, does Game of Thrones have shelf life? Our journey about to begin here, Rachel, but before we go to our fake sponsor, is there anything else that you would like to bring up before we hit the break?
And so our watch begins.
Rachel had one. She was waiting for it. I could tell she was like not trying to laugh at her own thing.
It's so dumb, and I loved it.
And now our watch begins. When we come back, after word from our fake sponsor, we will dive into the first episode of Game of Thrones after the break.